Each and every day, enjoy the Simple Six menu at Subway. An entire made-for-you meal featuring one of 6 6-inch sandwiches like the Italian BMT or Black Forest ham, with any bag of chips and a 21-ounce drink, all for only $6. Subway. Eat fresh.
The B.S. Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects. The B.S. Report. The B.S. Report with Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the B.S. Report. It's a sunny Wednesday here in Southern California. Just a quick reminder, we have 2 Grantland Basketball Hour shows coming on Thursday, 7 p.m. ESPN, and then another one on Friday, 7 p.m. ESPN. A 2-part playoff preview. Look out for that. It is also sunny back east in the area of Massachusetts, which was ravaged by snow all winter. And now things are looking up. The Patriots are Super Bowl champs. The Red Sox, Mookie Betts has taken off. And the Celtics have made the playoffs. What better time to call my dad? How are you?
Good. How you doing?
You talked yourself into the Celtics having a chance against LeBron and Kyrie in Cleveland last night. It was unclear whether you had been drinking. Are you still confident?
I can't really say I talked myself into us having a chance, but I kind of talked myself into looking at it a different way. You know, you and I have talked last couple of weeks. If we made the playoffs, we're obviously not yet a championship caliber team. And maybe we could win a series against Atlanta. You know, my thinking was maybe we could win a series against Atlanta, and then we certainly could win a series against Toronto if we played them next. And then we'd get beat by Cleveland in the conference finals. So eventually you have to play Cleveland. So that was part of my thinking. And the other part was, as a season ticket holder who hasn't been able to go to a playoff game in a couple of years, the excitement of seeing Cleveland come in here, I mean, that would be terrific. I never could stand Atlanta coming in here. There just never have been an exciting team. So I guess I've talked myself into maybe we can win Game 3, and maybe we can win one game on the road, and then I'd be very satisfied. You feel the same way?
Well, you know, there's 2 ways to rebuild, right? And the first way is you're just terrible and you suck, and then you pray for luck in the lottery. And we've done that a couple times.
Right.
In 97.
Without any luck.
Yeah, in 97 you get any luck. 2007 didn't get any luck, but then kind of stumbled into the whole KG thing, which was great. And then this time around, this decade really could have gone so much worse than it did. You know, you think like you had Doc Rivers making a huge salary who didn't want to be there, and you had Pierce and KG. We knew they were getting old, but we didn't know for sure how old.
Right. Particularly KG.
Rondo blew out his knee.
Right.
There was really no signs of
Green sucks.
Hope. Come on. We like Jeff Green. He just was up and down. He tormented you. Now he's tormenting the Memphis fans.
That's right.
But yeah, there was really nothing to hang your hat on, and now you look 2 years later. I mean, the number one thing for me is the coach. You know, I've been joking about it on Twitter and calling him President Brad Stevens, all this stuff, but he's really one of the best coaches I've ever followed on a day-to-day basis. It's not like Boston fans, you know, I'm like 40 years in with the Boston teams. I really only think Belichick, Parcells, I don't mean to put Stevens in that class yet, but it does kind of feel like it felt during the era of those guys, don't you think?
Yeah, I do think so. I mean, last night's game was kind of a good example. Any other coach that we've ever had, and I'm not sure I agree with what happened last night, but I fully understand Stevens' motivation. Any other coach we've ever had would have rested almost everybody he could have last night to make sure we lost that game and possibly move down after tonight's final games of the season into the 8th seed. But Stevens
to play Atlanta.
That's right, to play Atlanta. Stevens, he's not wired that way. And then you read the quotes from the players. I think they just love the guy. They love playing for him.
Yeah, they do.
And, you know, you and I have talked a lot about how players talk to other players on other teams, particularly when They're in free agency years. And I think a lot of players are going to want to play for a coach like Stevens. He motivates them. He's very smart. They all talk about his end of the quarter, end of the half, end of the game planning of plays, and how many of these have worked? I mean, most of them. To a person, as the new people come in, Isaiah Thomas, they've been quoting him lately about he's just so happy to be here and to play for this coach.
Right.
I think that really bodes well for the future. Maybe to draw in either through trade or free agency, one of these big free agents or one of the superstars from another team who's dissatisfied.
Yeah, it's a couple things going on there. One is that, excuse me, I just hiccuped. One is that just an inordinate amount of guys have come here and found themselves in a better career situation within a few weeks or a few months after having met Brad Stevens. Right. You're going down the line, it's like you're talking like 9 or 10 guys who have been in the best position of their careers. Even somebody like Jerebko, who signed a big, fairly big contract for a role player a couple years ago and hurt his knee, and I had kind of almost forgotten he was in the league, and now has turned into Tommy Heinsohn joked that he was the Swedish Larry Bird in one of the games. But
it always worries me
Jake
when
Crowder, Tommy's been out of his mind with Delay because I don't think he wanted to go through another rebuilding tanking
Tommy
situation.
Loves the way Stevens coaches. He loves the way that Stevens has these guys driving to the basket, helping out on defense.
Right.
I mean, they're all the things that Heinsohn preaches that I think Doc Rivers' coaching drove him crazy because we didn't play that way.
No question.
Yeah.
He hates terrible shot selection,
right.
And he doesn't like one-on-one basketball. And the Celtics don't. It's this motion offense where the ball's just moving and a lot of hands off and guys cutting and everybody's always moving and high volume shots. They took the most field goal attempts in the league.
Right.
But I like that they tried last night. And I like that the Bulls tried against the Nets because the Bulls easily could have tanked too and gone on that 4 seed. But
I'm shocked the Bulls tried last night.
I think it was the same reason. It's about the
coach.
mentality.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we can beat anybody. I don't think Stevens wanted his guys to think like, yeah, we're afraid of Cleveland. I think his attitude was like, no, we're not afraid of anybody. And Jay Crowder had a quote after the game where he was saying like, we basically like, we think we can beat anybody. We're not afraid of anybody. Bring it. Yeah, and that's kind of the team they have. It's
certainly motivating the crowd. I've been to a couple more games recently. The crowds are really into this team.
Yeah.
We've had a great history, even when we've had losing basketball, that we've had teams that tried hard, except for maybe a period in the late 70s. But this team really tries hard. And on top of that, I think I read today they've won 7 of their last 8 games. What a way to finish the season. Now they're going to get playoff experience, and, and they're going to bring a great draw into Boston and Cleveland and LeBron James. And maybe, again, to be repetitive, maybe we can steal a game at home.
Did you see the Celtics are 23-12 in their last 35?
I did.
It's a legitimate record.
I think they were only second to Cleveland, if I recall, in terms of that period of time. And how I think it's since February 2nd, since we've had 111 inches of snow or something like that.
Right. Well, I was saying earlier about the two different philosophies, and one is just you blow it up, you tank, you play the odds with the lottery, which I get. Philly's doing that right now. It's
right.
Smart. It makes sense. They're playing poker. But, Charlotte did that to some degree too, and you end up with Michael Kidd-Gilchrist instead of Anthony Davis. We did that in '97. We ended up with Chauncey Billups instead of Tim Duncan. It's just you need luck at some point. I think it's interesting to see a team go the other way and actually try to get better as they're rebuilding. Like the Isaiah Thomas trade and the Jeff Green trade make no sense if you look at them together, right?
Right.
Like, they trade Jeff Green. He's supposed to be one of the best players on the team. They just give him away for a first-round pick. But then they give away another first-round pick for Isaiah Thomas to bring him in. And if you look at it and you don't know enough about the situation, you think, well, that doesn't make any sense. But actually, they thought Jeff Green was kind of overrated, and they wanted to get a pick for him. They thought they could replace him with Jay Crowder, which they did. And on the flip side, they just thought Thomas, like Danny Ainge said, they interviewed him during the game last night, and he was just saying, like, they just thought he was an asset. They thought they had, like, a rare chance to get somebody at a discount price that just wasn't going to be available in a couple months, and they didn't care what the price was.
And it really was a discount price because that's at the end of the round, first rounder. You know, Isaiah Thomas, we had this discussion, you and I, a couple days ago. Who would you rather have right now playing point, Isaiah Thomas or Rajon Rondo?
Oh, it's no contest.
I mean, really, but who would have thought that at the beginning of the year when people were so fearful that we'd lose Rondo? But now we have a guy, I mean, I realize he has deficiencies in terms of on defense, but he goes to the basket. He makes the players around him better. He's not fearful of being fouled because he's a very good foul shooter. He has a lot of intangibles as well in terms of being a leader on the team.
And he got hurt. He got hurt at a time when he was playing awesome.
Right. He's only now coming back. Yep.
Yeah, it didn't really seem like he was himself until the Detroit game last week. But he's this guy who's kind of perfect for where basketball's going because he can shoot threes and he gets to the rim. And he plays slash and kick. And we would watch these Celtic games these last couple of years. And with Stevens, the team was always in the mix to win the game. And we had no closer.
Right,
which is why I like the Thomas trade because it was like, I've seen this guy. This guy is a closer. He knows what to do at the end of games.
That's a really good point. I think I can think of 6 out of 7 games maybe since Thomas got here where we've closed it in the last minute, and those were possibly games we would have lost at the beginning of the season.
Well, you went to the Cleveland game in November. When I think they blew, it was like a 19-point lead in the fourth quarter. And they just had nowhere to go for baskets.
Right.
But we should mention this. Both of us are well aware that this Celtics team is an atrocious protect the rim team, and they're going against a team that has, I would say, 2 of the best 4 drive to the rim guys in the entire league. So that's a problem.
Yeah. I mean, Cleveland's a terrible matchup for us. So
it's the worst possible matchup,
right? And we possibly are going to get swept.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, if you talk about pluses and minuses, that's a risk for this young team in terms of if they get swept, is that going to ruin all of the positive progress that's taken place the last 2 months? I hope not.
I don't think they'll get swept. They'll steal one of these. Stevens will do something. Isaiah will get hot in one game. I'd be surprised if they got swept. But I think going back to the 2 roads you can take when you're rebuilding. And this is the part that I don't care. I just like the Philly thing and some of the other teams that are just blowing it up and rebuilding, starting over, which we've done. We've been there for it. You have all these young players. You have all these assets, but when you throw them together, you just don't know what's going to happen. They don't have anybody leading them or helping them or showing them stuff or showing them what to do. And we lived through that during the Patino era. Remember, we had a bunch of young picks. We were loaded. We had Walker and we had Billups. We had Ron Mercer.
We also don't know what's the chemistry of the team going to be like as well.
Right. There's so many variables to it that to me it's like, if you can build something where you have a foundation of some pieces and you have a great coach, but you're also there playing these big games. Like the Celtics just played 6-7 weeks of high-pressure games trying to get in the playoffs and had some players in big moments, and now they're going to be in a playoff series against LeBron and Kyrie and Kevin Love on national TV. Like, you can't tell me that's not like an awesome thing for Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
It's like going to grad school. It's like the best possible situation for him.
I agree. Particularly if I have a little voodoo doll of Kyrie Irving, and I put a little pin in his right hip today. So hopefully that...
Oh, you did?
Yeah, because I understand his hip is bothering him. That would help us a little bit.
You're old, so nobody's going to blame you for that.
That's right. Yes. But you know, I was talking to my brother Don last night about what a great time of the year this is to be in Boston. And I know this is one of the times of the year you miss being here. We have the Red Sox, who are 6-2, even though their starting pitching is really questionable. They're hitting, and the weather has changed, and they're playing like today, an afternoon game in beautiful weather. We have the Bruins, who even though they didn't make the playoffs, they made major news today. They fired the general manager. We have the Patriots, who made major news today because their former star tight end got convicted of first-degree murder.
Those last two weren't very positive.
No, I know they weren't very positive. We have the marathon. Today is the 2-year anniversary.
More positive. Yeah, that was more positive.
Of the marathon bombing, and they had a terrific pregame celebration prior to the Red Sox this afternoon. But there's just a lot going on that's sports-related. 2 weeks from tomorrow, we have the NFL draft. It's just a fun time to be a sports fan. It kind of rivals, to some extent, the end of October, when you have a lot of things going on as well. But
and that was the 80s.
Now
we
have something that hasn't taken place to be part of that in a while, which is the Celtics. You know, that we're in the playoffs. We play Cleveland. LeBron's coming to town. We're going to be on national TV. Hopefully,
you left out the part that you left out the part that the Patriots won the Super Bowl a couple months ago.
Well, yeah, obviously the Patriots won the Super Bowl, but now I've moved on to 2 weeks from tomorrow is the NFL draft, and hopefully we fill a couple of holes that we now have in that lineup. But obviously we won the Super Bowl. I did forget about that, but I am old.
It's your annual ritual where you get totally into the NFL draft and target 2 or 3 guys that you really want, and then right before we pick, they trade down.
It happens every year. It happens. I know.
It's great.
I know.
It'll be good. There'll be some defensive tackle you're fired up about, and like 10 minutes before the pick, they'll trade down.
But you know, in June, I'll do the same thing with the NBA draft, where we have 3 of the top 33 or 34 picks. I mean, we could really, once again, add on to a positively growing team. Don't you think?
Yeah, they're going to have like 16, 26, and 33.
Okay.
They also have a ton of cap space.
In a deep
the only guy they have, the only guy they have making over $8 million a year is Gerald Wallace, who's an expiring.
He has one more year, I think, right?
I think from what I've been able to gather, Stevens wants to play a lot like how Atlanta and Golden State play, where you just have a lot of guys who can switch on in Milwaukee too. Guys who can just switch. I mean, Golden State has Bogut. Bogut is a much better defensive player than people realize, and he's kind of the anchor in the middle. But other than that, they have guys who can just switch on just everything. And I think that's where the Celtics want to get. So I actually don't think that Kevin Love is somebody that they go after. I think they're looking at more of those, you know, Chris Middleton, Tobias Harris type guys.
Really, because you were leading the Kevin Love Bring Him to Boston parade a year ago.
Yeah, I don't think he fits in with what Stevens wants to do. Stevens wants an athletic team of guys who are just malleable. Like Jay Crowder's like the perfect Celtic. That's exactly the kind of guy they want on this team.
Do you think Boogie Cousins would fit in here?
I mean, I'm the wrong person to ask because I'm an irrational Boogie fan, but I think he would buy into Brad Stevens. It's almost like Boogie's like one of those guys who has had all the wrong girlfriends and has just never dated the right girl. He's had all these different coaches and all these different GMs and owners, and
I listened to your podcast that you did with him. I think it was during All-Star Weekend, and I had never heard him speak before. I mean, obviously he's a bright man who loves basketball and always seems to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, so maybe has a bad reputation.
Maybe a Stevens could turn a guy like that around.
The problem is, I don't think they're going to have enough. I think the Cousins thing's interesting because there's a lot of buzz now that he might might be potentially in the block. He's got an agent named Dan Fagan who's notorious for kind of bullying teams when he doesn't like a situation that his client's in. And I think this qualifies. And,
but maybe he'd influence who they traded him to as well.
Well, so there's a couple interesting ones, right? I'm writing about this in Friday. I have a mailbag on Friday, but I'm going to step on it. I don't care. The obvious one, which I already brought up, was Orlando, because they have Vucevic, who's like a 19-11 guy who's locked up for the next 5 years. So you could argue he's going to give you 80% of Boogie's stats. And you either have him with Aaron Gordon or they're probably going to have the number 5 or number 6 pick. So you get that package for Boogie. If he wants out anyway, it's not bad. That's not a bad starting point.
No,
the really interesting one is...
That's a good package.
Well, so what if the Knicks got number 2 and just said, we'll give you the number 2 pick for Cousins?
I think Sacramento would do that.
I think Sacramento would do that. And
Yep.
the question with the Knicks is would you rather have the number 2 pick? Would you rather just keep it and spend the $15 million that you'd have to pay to Boogie on a free agent? I'd actually rather do that. I think if it was the number 3 pick for Boogie, I think I would do that. But then I'm not sure if the Kings would do that because they're not getting Towns or Okafor back.
That's right. Unless the other guy from Duke goes 1 or 2, which they won't know.
The other trade that I was thinking is I think Milwaukee is an interesting destination for him, because Milwaukee could put Giannis on the table if they wanted, because they have Jabari coming back, and that's actually kind of a blockbuster. But I think there. So when you look at the Celtics, you'd really have to be selling those Brooklyn picks hard to get Boogie, and the Kings would have to want to do a total rebuild around picks, and I'm not sure they'd want to do that. They seem like they're in kind of that win now mentality.
If I'm Cousins' agent, I'm not excited about him going to Milwaukee. I think he's more apt to thrive in a bigger market kind of atmosphere.
Well, Orlando would be a great situation for
Orlando
him,
might be
because they have
a
good young nucleus, and they're going to hire a new coach, and maybe he could have some say in that. The one way the Celtics could get him, I think, Denver potentially could just blow it up completely and put Lawson and Fareed on the table with whatever else, and you could maybe think of a 3-way where Boston would just send a buttload of picks to Denver. Denver sends Lawson and Fareed, and
right.
Maybe something else, take the Kings for Boogie, and Boogie comes to the Celtics. That's the only way I see it, but it really does feel like Orlando. Unless there's also a chance that he might want to play like in a big market, like the Lakers.
Is there
the
any
Lakers
other
got the 3rd pick
shot blocking big man who is available somehow, either free agency or trade, that you think the Celtics are looking at?
There's a lot of them.
I don't think we're going to have a high enough draft pick to get one out of the draft for sure.
Yeah, but you're already on record saying that if the Celtics got Kaminsky, you'd have to be airlifted out of your house because you.
Well, I like his game. He's got quick feet. He's got some Kevin McHale type old school moves that I like. He's not lefty.
He's like a better version of Olynyk.
Yeah, if he was lefty, I'd be over the top. But he's a better rebounder than Olynyk for sure. You think he's going to be there at 16?
No, I actually don't.
Yeah, I don't.
I think when we get close, the 2 guys that I think are going to rise when we get close to the draft are I think Justice Winslow is going to rise. I think when people work him out, they're going to be stunned by like what a great athlete he is and how he handles himself. I just see him vaulting, and I think Kaminsky, when we get closer to the draft and teams start thinking about him as a stretch 5 in the NBA, which has become a real position now. I just think somebody in that 9, 10, 11 range is going to jump on him. A lot like McDermott last year, where just one team's going to get enamored with him and they're going to want him.
Right.
But there's a lot of those like Omer Ashik, Robin Lopez, those kind of guys in free agency. So my sense on the Celts would be that this summer they're going to try to get guys on good contracts and not try to shoot their wad and overpay Greg Monroe or somebody like that. I just don't think they're going to do that. So it'll be interesting. Hey, tell us a couple things. Do people in Boston, have they cared about the Hernandez trial? Has it been a huge thing? What is the feedback it gets back home?
Yeah, it's an interesting question if you're not here. I don't think people really have even focused on it with Super Bowl win, with the Red Sox opening the season, with the big depressing end of the season for the Bruins, and with all the stuff with the Celtics we've been talking about. It's dragged on for a while. The jury was in debate for 6 days, and yet you didn't hear you'd hear people say, "Gee, did they have a decision yet?" But he became such an unlikable guy in the public view, in terms of the more you found out about him, the more you realized you had been deceived about him in terms of his demeanor. I just don't think it became the big story. You have to realize, though, the trial was going on at the same time as the trial for the marathon bomber. That was getting most of the attention, as it rightfully should have been getting the attention. And that decision obviously came out first. So I just don't think it got the attention in Boston. I don't know if did it get it across the country? I doubt it.
Yeah, it didn't seem like people cared that much.
Yeah.
It also, it didn't seem very polarizing. It was pretty clear that he was at least somehow involved. I think even on the last day of when the defense was wrapping up, his defense attorney all of a sudden was like, well, he was there, but he didn't do it, and then he didn't know what to do, and it's like, what? He was there? He didn't know what to do? What?
Well, but I don't think, I certainly never chatted with anybody in the last year who didn't think he did it, or was there when it was done and he was supporting it being done. So I certainly never met anybody that said, "Oh, I really don't think he did it." The interesting thing, though, is he has another trial that's supposed to start the end of May for killing the two other people, and that has a real influence on the Patriots' cap, which you probably know, in terms of his bonus money. And hopefully that trial, they said today that trial will go forward. And
I was surprised that he got first-degree murder because they never found the weapon, and they never came up with a real motive, because what people thought the actual motive was that the guy that he killed knew about the other murders, but they weren't allowed to introduce those murders in this trial. So it was like no motive and no weapon, but yet they had so much other evidence that he got convicted anyway.
Exactly. I don't know how much evidence they have for the double homicide in 2012, but again, they said they're going to go forward with that. That would allow the Patriots to not have to count all that money against their cap, and might give them some relief. Obviously it's terrible that murders were committed, but there's no sympathy for this guy, and not much discussion in answer to your question. What was your other point or question?
The only thing I was going to say about that is he was one of those guys who was on the team, and he was very successful as a Patriot, but nobody really knew anything about him or had much of an opinion on him. It wasn't like other guys just resonate, like Wilfork and Gronkowski and Welker, and he's going down the line. Like, he felt like he had some sort of connection with those guys. And Hernandez was always this kind of stealth H-back he never knew anything about.
So, except he certainly showed up on game day.
No, he was very good.
Yeah.
But I think, if this was Gronk, I just think it's covered differently and treated differently and regarded differently.
I agree with you. I think the other part was the day of the draft when the Patriots drafted him and he dropped to the fourth round, I think. I mean, there was a lot of discussion about why he dropped, and so some surprise that the Patriots drafted him because of all the rumors that were out there.
Right. We knew we weren't drafting a potential man of the year.
Right.
Now, the other question was Mookie Betts fever. What is it on a scale of 1 to 10 right now?
Well, that's really high. Actually, the last couple of days when I've walked the dogs and run into people I knew, the first person they brought up was Mookie Betts. You know, the guy's got a great name, right?
Yeah.
30 years ago, the name Mookie brought tears to your eyes. So finally we have a Mookie that we can look at in a positive light. Obviously Mookie, who hit the ball that went through Buckner's legs. But the guy looks just like such a confident athlete, athletic phenom. His game the other day where he stole 2 bases in the first inning, then came up and hit the 3-run homer, then hit the single, then made the catch that robbed the guy of the 2-run homer in the first inning. I mean, phenomenal. No wonder the Phillies wanted him, and they're never going to get him. No,
that would have been horrible if we traded him.
Would have been horrible. Would have been a mistake that way. Maybe 10 years ago the Red Sox, or not 10, 20 years ago the Red Sox would have made.
Yeah, Luke Gorman would have traded him.
Yeah, but unless health permitting, he looks like a fixture for the next 10 years in center field.
I'm not going to panic about the pitching yet because, as you know, I'm in the League of Dorks, American League only, about as intensive a fantasy league as there is. And,
well, didn't you take Masterson, if I recollect?
Yeah, but here's the thing about the American League. All the pitchers suck. There's like 8 good pitchers. It's like you just go anywhere and you're going to have a bad pitcher in your team. So, somebody was excited that they had Buchholz last week, and then he got shelled on Monday.
My complaint about the Sox, I've always been a James Shields fan, and they really could have gotten him on the cheap for what they would have gotten him for less that they ended up paying Porcello for his 4-year contract. I just think they made a mistake. They wouldn't have had to give up prospects. You just bring him in here. He's got a great record in the American League East, particularly. I just think they made a mistake. I think they overvalued the people they brought in here.
I like Shields because he throws 200 innings every year.
True, yeah. And again, he's had a good start. I think his 2 starts have been very good. The puzzling thing is, how about Lester's start?
Well, how about this weird pickoff thing that everyone had kind of forgotten about?
I don't think I ever knew about it. Did you know about it?
I knew he was that he had a little bit of the yips, but I didn't know it was to the point that as soon as base runners understood that he was never throwing over there, it was going to become a problem. Who knew? I
think I read that after April, he never threw to first base last year. Why didn't everybody recognize that? Why wasn't every runner on first base stealing second?
I guess because he's a lefty and he's just staring at you. I don't know.
But he never threw over there. It's pretty amazing, actually, now. And now that it's out, I guess, what did he pitch today? He pitched Monday, I think, and he threw over there and the ball got away and the guy went to third. I mean, he really could have the yips.
Did Boston get rid of all the snow yet or no?
Yeah, the snow's gone, finally. So we've had a couple of gorgeous days. Actually, Boston doesn't have snow. I understand the suburbs still have snow, but Fenwick Park couldn't look more beautiful.
It was like, people said it was like living in Russia for 4 months.
The worst winter ever. It wasn't just the record amount of snow. It was freezing here.
Yeah.
I mean, every day was cold with that awful wind that comes in off the either the Charles or the ocean comes all the way down from Canada.
Yeah.
Or it was just awful.
We had a couple of cold weeks here too. It dropped to like 52, 51.
Yeah, I mean that's cold for you, but
yeah, I get it. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So we think we know we know that the Celtics probably can't beat the Cavs, but at the same time,
in a 7-game series.
At the same time, we're going to be watching this series pretty closely.
Right, and
we're not going to be surprised by anything.
Hopefully, you're going to come home and at least see a couple of these games against Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm coming back for a couple.
Good.
It's a good one. And the other thing we didn't mention is kind of the weird, fun, up and down history of LeBron versus the Celtics. You know, you go back to the 2008, takes us to a Game 7 basically by himself the year we win the title. 2010, they're favored to win the title. Rondo just goes to another level. We knock him out.
Right.
2011, Wade breaks Rondo's elbow. 2012, we have him 3-2. It seems like the all-time self-combustion ever, and then LeBron, you and I went to that game, and he played the greatest game of his life and turned his entire legacy around.
Unfortunately, I think that's the last playoff game you and I went to. Game 6, as you said, we have them down 3-2. We walked in there that day a little bit confident.
Yeah, the whole crowd was too confident. That was part of the problem with that game.
Yeah.
I think people just assume that the Pierce KG Allen, like the magic was trumping everything, and nobody saw that game coming.
In all the time I've watched LeBron, I've never seen him approach a game the way he did that game.
Yeah, he was like a tennis player.
He didn't want any other player on his team shooting the ball. I mean, he wanted the ball every single time, and he was scary. I mean, I was impressed. We were not going to win that game. There was nothing we could do to win that game.
No, he destroyed us.
But he doesn't play like that way every game, and I'm not sure he could play like that again. I'm not sure he's 3 years later the same player. But he was phenomenal that day.
The Celtics have only one chance to make this series interesting, and it's if Kyrie is banged up.
Yeah, well,
because I think that just. Although we do have guys to throw on Kyrie, I got to say, like Marcus is going to be a first-team all-defense guy at some point in his life. That guy is great defensively. Although Lowry burned him on those last 2 plays last night, I was surprised. But
he did burn him on the drives.
But Smart is unbelievable on defense. The way he deals with those high screens and just kind of jumps in front of them, he's just a magician.
You know, just to get back to the draft we were talking about, we really did get lucky getting Smart with the 6th pick. When you look at a couple of the people that went ahead of him, that supposedly we were looking at, Gordon, that guy Von Lay that went to Charlotte.
After us, yeah.
We didn't
remember,
yeah.
You were devastated when we lost the coin flip, and then even more devastated when we dropped back a spot. But really, Smart's the 4th best guy from that draft.
He's a guy that we really needed. I mean, our 3-guard rotation is exciting to watch. We just now need to fill in some pieces, obviously with a shot blocker. But I hope they win at least 1 game against Cleveland. I'd be really excited if they win 2 games. Could they beat them in a 7-game series? Probably only if Kyrie's health had a major impact on the series.
We're not beating them in a series.
Okay.
But we could maybe get to a 7. 7 would be fun.
6 would be fun. I'd love to see them come back for Game 6.
I will say, we have Crowder to throw at LeBron. And, you know, Kawhi is obviously the best possible person you could throw at LeBron. Crowder's, maybe a 7 out of 10 on the guys you could throw at LeBron's
He's
scale.
pretty good, but he gets in foul trouble.
He does. That's what, like, if the refs called it a certain way, he played like 15 minutes, all of a sudden Jared goes out there.
And then you're going to have J.R. Smith just out there shooting threes all day.
Right,
I mean,
which I don't mind.
He's hot or cold, but he has been hot lately.
Mozgov could kill us, ironically.
That is true. Although I think Mozgov could have a little trouble guarding Zeller. Zeller's such a... We were so lucky to have picked him up. I mean, we really didn't have a starting center.
Tommy Heinsohn talks about that trade like it's like the Bird and like the McHale Parrish for Joe Barry Carroll trade.
He does.
He loves that trade. You can't get a center for nothing.
But
in
he's
the
right.
NBA.
He's right. I mean, obviously he has his flaws, and he gets pushed around a little bit by the bigger, heavier centers. And Mozgov happens to be one of them. But Mozgov's a pretty slow guy, and Zeller runs the floor every single play he's out there. So.
Well, we love the Celtics
see.
team. Did you see Fast and Furious 7 yet?
I was fortunate enough to go on Saturday with my nephew, Pete, my other son, and I loved it. I was very surprised how much I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was well done, not too sappy. I thought the ending was kind of neat, the way they did that, I guess, with the computer-generated piece at the end. And it had a good story. It kept my interest the whole time.
I mean, they're 4 in a row at this point. 4 was excellent. 5, 6, 7. They're on a streak.
Do you think it's hard to think that there could ever be an 8?
Oh,
I don't know.
I think we're going to get to 10.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yeah. Because the great thing about this franchise is they can just keep adding different components, right? Like, in Fast 8, they're going to have to fill the Paul Walker good-looking white guy role with somebody famous.
Somebody, yeah.
Jason Statham's going to get out of jail.
Well, Jason Statham, I always enjoy. You and I like him. He's almost always the good guy assassin or the good guy superhero. Or it was kind of strange to see him in a bad guy role, and he was very good in it.
Did you enjoy it more or less than your favorite movie of the decade, The Equalizer?
No, I enjoyed The Equalizer more, but a different kind of movie. The special effects in this Fast and Furious 7 were pretty unbelievable. I don't know how they did some of the things they did, but
I don't know either.
Yeah, they were terrific. I give a huge thumbs up. No wonder that movie is breaking all these records with attendance.
I also love Vin Diesel. I really enjoy it. I enjoy every scene that Vin Diesel's in.
When you saw the movie, did you see it IMAX theater or regular theater?
Big theater, not IMAX. The one that I'm debating, because I'm going to go see it again, I'm debating about the 4D. I don't even fully understand 4D. Like, your seat shakes and they spray stuff on you. I don't even know what goes on with 4D, so I might check that out.
I've never seen a 4D. You have it near your office, right?
We do, and I'm pretty sure at no point in my life when I've been in a movie theater have I said the words to myself, I wish somebody would spray something on me.
Well, yeah, I wish my seat would move around. Yeah.
We also had, when we saw it on opening day, a couple of Grantland people and myself, and it's just astounding. I don't know if this is an LA thing or if this is an around the country thing, but the people who bring their kids into movies now, it feels like it's becoming an epidemic, and Obama might have to step in.
I'm trying to think. Was there anything in there though that was it rated R?
It's a 2-hour, 15-minute action movie with things blowing up and cars, and it's loud as hell. It's like, what? Why would you bring your 9-month-old baby into that?
Well,
movie?
That's true. I forgot. There are a few people who lose their lives in the movie. Yeah.
So we were kind of sitting on the aisle, and some couple brought their 2 kids who got bored within 10 minutes and started running up and down the aisle, which was fun for about 3 minutes.
Right.
But at like the 45-minute mark of trying to watch the movie, but all of a sudden I have some 3-year-old grabbing my foot, It was like, what are you doing? And it's just like there's like a lawlessness at movies now. Like the ushers are nowhere to be seen. It's amazing to me that people just don't go to movies and just tape the things and sell them, because it's not like they're ushers making sure nobody's up to anything.
Yeah, you would have enjoyed. We went to see it at the AMC Boston Common Theater. It has 19 theaters. It's right in the middle of the city, and we saw a 3:00 in the afternoon showing. It wasn't IMAX. It was completely sold out, and people were cheering before the movie started.
Yeah,
and I was a little bit afraid. It was an excitable crowd.
It's a great franchise when people are applauding during the opening credits when they see certain names, like, oh, Vin Diesel, oh.
Yeah, that's what they were doing. It hadn't started yet.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, there were 6 guys in the row in front of us. They all stood up and started clapping. So
our movie had applause as well, and then we all filed out while trying to pretend we didn't have tears in our eyes.
Yeah.
They really handled that well. Spoiler alert, but I don't want to say how they handled it, but I really appreciated it. That could have gone badly in so many different ways.
Right.
Yeah.
I would see it again, but I'd like to see it the next time in IMAX. I saw Equalizer in IMAX and made a difference.
You're ready for Equalizer too.
I am ready for it. The only movie, it's on demand now, and I haven't yet chosen to watch it, is Taken 3, because I was so into Taken 1 and Taken 2.
Yeah, Taken 3.
Don't bother.
No, you should see it, but it just I wouldn't raise your hopes.
Yeah.
I think Liam Neeson got hot there for about a minute, and rightfully so. He all of a sudden became the best action hero, and he just started grabbing scripts and paychecks. I really think he was like, he must have just done the math, maybe with his accountant, and they just kind of figured out, all right, Liam, if you make these 3 movies, here's the price, but you're gonna probably bastardize your action movie hero status. He's like, screw it, I'll do it. Yeah,
you just wrote that column 6 months ago. He was at the top of the list.
The one that people said wasn't that bad was the one where his son.
Cemetery?
No, the one with his son had to make it through the night to live, whatever that movie was. I'll be pay-per-viewing all of them. I mean, I already pay-per-view Taken 3. The other 2 are on my list. All right, Dad. Enjoy. Oh, I guess we never talked about the Bruins GM, but there's nothing to talk about the Bruins. They made a couple dumb trades and
they weren't dumb trades. They were outrageously terrible trades.
You're very upset about the Sagan trade stuff.
I was, as soon as I heard about it, and I didn't even know. Put aside who they got back in return, which was basically nothing. They gave up on a 21-year-old guy that was a second pick in the draft, who was immature, and I just think they threw in the towel so much too early in him. And then the Boychuk trade was just terrible. Set them back the whole season.
Has anybody ever really tried to figure out if they had to trade him for cap purposes, or if they could have waited until February, or did they have to do that deal when they did it?
I don't think they had to do that trade. I think I don't know. We're not buddies, so maybe he liked the idea of the 2 second-round draft picks, but
he's the only one.
Yeah, it really upset. I mean, it seemed to. Their defense all season was terrible, and you can't tell anybody in Boston that Boychuk wouldn't have helped that defense. So I think thank you for the Stanley Cup championship. It's now 4 years later, and it's time to move on.
The Stanley Cup championship, and then the other one against the Blackhawks, that still haunts you.
The first game still haunts me. In San Antonio, watching that game in overtime. Yep. Should have had that game. Should have had that series.
The Blackhawks scored, and you just got up and you just walked to the elevator. I think you gave a cursory goodbye to the 4 people we were with. That was it. You were just gone.
I don't remember if I was with anybody. Were other people there?
Yeah, there are a couple other people there.
Okay.
Sal and I Sal and I have a bunch of hockey bets we're excited about. I've actually, because I went to so many Kings games, I actually have opinions on the on some of the playoffs.
Playoffs are such a crapshoot in hockey, though. You always see teams come out. For example, in the Globe today, they picked Ottawa to beat Montreal in the first series, 8 to beat 1.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm not.
Yeah.
I had to fill out a bracket for NHL.com, and I picked the Senators, partly because I hate the Canadians.
Well, yeah, I would have done that too. But
the Senators are like the proverbial smoking hot team heading into the playoffs.
They are, yeah. And if it was the Bruins, Montreal, we probably would have said we had a 1% chance of winning that series. So,
well, I gotta say, I just don't think the Bruins had it this year.
No,
the Kings situation was weird because it really just came down to the overtimes and the shootouts. And in the playoffs, you don't have 4-on-4 overtime, and you obviously don't have shootouts. And so all the Kings fans had lulled themselves into this false sense of security of, well, when we get to the playoffs, it'll just be Kings hockey. But then they never made it.
But the Bruins, I think, were even worse than the Kings in shootouts. There are no two teams more excited about the possibility of a revamped overtime similar to the AHL that involves 3-on-3 for a certain number of minutes, right? Bruins and the Kings.
It's never been explained to me why they just can't do a 10-minute overtime 4-on-4. The 4-on-4, there's so many scoring chances. At some point, somebody's going to score.
But can you imagine?
It's really hard to get through a 10-minute OT without scoring.
They've shown on the AHL. I think they do. What do they do? 3 or 4 minutes 4-on-4, and then 3 or 4 minutes 3-on-3. 3-on-3 hockey. You and I could score.
Well, it's certainly better than the shootout. I don't even like the shootout.
Right.
It just seems like
exciting.
It would. I don't know if the stats have gone down or what, but it just seems like it's much harder to score than it used to be.
Right. Well,
maybe they should make a rule that the backup goalie has to be in for the shootouts or something.
Yeah, that would be good.
I don't know.
Something. Anyway.
Or fans from the stands. All right, Dad. I'll see you in Boston next week. Thank you for your time, as always.
All right. And we'll keep an eye on Kyrie Irving's hip.
All right. Be careful of that voodoo doll. I don't want the karma to come back and bite us. Talk to you soon.
Okay, I'll take the pin out.
All right.
Talk to you later.
Target the sign off. Whoa.
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Podcenter at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.
Hey, what you got there, Goldick?
The new Subway Chipotle chicken melt with guacamole.
Man, that looks good.
Yeah, this new guac is really bringing the flavor.
Got one for me too, right?
Well, yes and no. Mostly no. Well, really, all no.
Try the irresistible new Subway Chipotle chicken melt with guacamole, juicy grilled chicken strips with Monterey cheddar, Chipotle Southwest sauce, and new guacamole made from ripe Hass avocados with just a hint of jalapeno. Subway, eat fresh.